Hey, this is Pradeep with Sensatura, and today we are doing a haul video. Now, this is not one of those cases with dozens of bottles. I've got just 3 niche fragrances, a couple of special editions and such. I'm very particular with what I buy at this point. I also managed to get discounts, swaps for these, and avoided paying full retail, which is always good with the pricing on fragrances these days. None of these are blind buys. They are already unboxed, so I can be sure they have arrived in good condition. So let's get started. First is Chypre Palatin from MDCI, composed by Bertrand Duchaufour, who has launched his own brand recently. I've got samples and been testing them for a while, so that video will be coming soon. But this one released more than a decade ago. In fact, it is one of the 2 fragrances which has been on my buy list for the longest time, the other being Green Irish Tweed from Creed, which has been completely destroyed now, unfortunately. So probably won't be buying it, which leaves just this. I even mentioned this in my year-end wishlist video. So let's unbox it. This is a Silk Road edition bottle of 100 ml. The normal bottle is 75 ml, which costs 250 euros, and this costs 275 euros. So it was a no-brainer to go with this option. Couple of reasons why I pulled the trigger on this, apart from the fact that I really enjoy the fragrance. Obviously, the price increases to come are a factor. Second, I had a birthday discount to use, plus a bunch of loyalty points at this Parisian boutique. And lastly, I had asked them if they could find me an older bottle, because there's been talks of reformulations, though the new version I sampled recently smells fine. The owner of the brand, MDCI himself, is very firm that nothing has changed, while some people who own it are convinced it has changed. In any case, though I don't obsess over getting a particular batch and such, if there's a way, I wouldn't mind going with an older bottle, and this is an older bottle. Main thing that gives it away, apart from the code, is the cap. The newer bottles have just a single dome, whereas this has a collar, and the color of the fragrance is also different. This bottle has those beautiful Turkish, Persian design elements. There's also the bust version, which I think is just too much. On the fragrance itself, it is a neoclassical multifaceted Chypre. There's elements of a fruity Chypre, a floral Chypre, and a leather Chypre. There's also a prominent amber oriental side to it, and it's not like the case with some of the newer Amouage releases, where you can't smell that complexity at all. Here it's actually complex. Different elements come up from time to time. I get this prominent plum note, the sort of greenness from the florals and the galbanum. There are spicy aromatic aspects to it. It's also balsamic and ambre before settling down on this soft, supple leather with a mossy undertone. It's rich, it's opulent. There are small embellishments everywhere, creating this sense of grandeur. Yet, it's not stuffy like some of those old school Chypres. Duchaufour has made so many great fragrances, and this gets into the creme de la creme bracket of those creations. Okay, next up is a release from a brand which has become one of my favorites here recently. This is Ambre Liquide, or Liquid Amber, from Astier de Villatte, composed by Dominique Ropion. I have already talked about the 3 historical perfumes that we created for the brand. Les Nuits, in particular, is a brilliant vintage-esque iris rose patchouli Chypre. Have a full bottle. Easily one of the best discoveries in recent times for me. This one I sampled at the end of last year and liked it quite a bit. But of course I had to spend some time and look for deals. This brand is not cheap at all, but I was able to find a 30 ml bottle for a very good price and decided to get it. What Ropion has been doing with this brand is part research-oriented, where he works with researchers to try and find information about fragrances from different time periods. They have recreated formulas used by the Romans, Kyphe from Greeks, Egyptians and such. This is supposed to be a recipe from the Middle Ages, so it definitely shares some similarities with the other 3 compositions. It feels like a medicinal recipe preparation rather than a completely traditional French amber, which can be a bit strange at first. Here it opens quite spicy and resinous. I get hints of cinnamon, cardamom, nutmeg, possibly some clove and anise. There is this cooling, lightly mentholated facet in there in the opening particularly. There is something reminding me of dried ginger, which I have had with tea, a prominent old-fashioned myrrh, benzoin and incense. It does feel a bit molten, like it's flowing, instead of going in the dusty, powdery amber side, which neatly fits the name. There is this golden pink hue to it, almost rose water like soothing nuance in there. Dries down to this soft amber. Really an interesting take on an amber. I like the other two ambers Ropion did for the brand, particularly Artaban, which is part of the 3 historical perfume set, but I'm not sure how much I would actually wear it. This one though is a nice middle ground, where it has those slightly experimental elements and yet more easily wearable. Speaking of Dominique Ropion, next up is a fragrance that is not new. This is one I have worn for quite a few years, one of my favorites from my favorite brand. This is the 15th anniversary edition, full red portrait of a lady from Frederic Malle. Now I don't usually go in for special edition bottles and such, but in this case it looked really nice when it was announced. Still, I wanted to see it in my hand before buying. Luckily, a friend of mine bought 2 bottles of this. This is one and the other one is a larger box, which also came with these photographs by David Sims and a portrait of Helmut Newton. It was nice, but I figured it was going to take too much space, so I decided to go with this simpler presentation. Also, she wanted a normal bottle where she could clearly see the amount of perfume inside, so I basically swapped a general release bottle of mine for this. Seriously though, these days, if anyone asks me if I ever buy fragrances at retail,
"What's that? What's that, brother?"
In any case, the brand's note goes, quote, "To mark 15 years of this iconic fragrance, the limited edition bottle has been reimagined in bold red lacquer. This striking creation, where art meets perfume, leaves an unforgettable impression on the eye and the nose. It redefines the contours of the Chypre family. From this expert craftsmanship, there emerges a splendor created to outlast time." Unquote. Now, Portrait is a fragrance which makes me nervous whenever I think of doing a review. Not sure I can do justice to it. Maybe someday. It's one of those fragrances with which I've had many memorable moments, wore it when I was with people close to me and so on. It is a big, baroque, rose patchouli amber fragrance. It's interesting they mentioned the Chypre family here, because in the original blurb, it is considered a new breed of amber oriental. All that to say, it does not fit one particular family, and that is the beauty of it. Some even consider this to be a straight up rose fragrance. It was even rumored to have an oud accord when it was released first, extremely popular in the Middle East for a reason. The spices, the red fruits, leading to this rich velvety rose over a bed of patchouli and backed up by this resinous amber, is just so captivating. What I was also curious about is how different it is. I did spray it once from this bottle, and yes, it's a bit different. It comes across less spicy, less mossy from the patchouli, more heavy on the rose, and a touch greener. Keyword, different but not bad. There is this connotation that if a fragrance is a bit different, that automatically makes it bad. I personally don't subscribe to that notion. Now, if you are talking about something like Yala Samsara, for instance, that is different and bad. Without the Mysore sandalwood, that is just an empty husk of a fragrance. But this is not bad, at least as of today. In the future, who knows what could happen? Now that Malle has left and Estee Lauder stocks are plummeting, if they ever decide to reformulate it badly, making Portrait to Landscape of a Lady, maybe thin it out so they can come up with an extrait version for a higher price tag, then that would mean the brand has taken an entirely different direction. There are even rumors of some discontinuations, people backing up their favorites from the brand and such. We shall see. I myself don't want to be without Portrait. Hope to always have it in my collection. Over the years, I've come to appreciate it, particularly for this sort of ornamental accessory-like quality it has, which is funny because I remember smelling this for the first time and thinking it smells too rich and opulent for me. Nowadays, I sometimes even spray it with a white t-shirt. It sort of lends itself to be worn like an expensive watch or a jewelry with a simple outfit, while still being this strikingly artistic, grand creation, if I had to pick a top 10 from this quarter century, this would certainly be on it. That has been my end of January mini haul. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care and ciao.